Hey everyone, it's Aviation Buff. Hope everyone's having a good day. Before we begin, please like and subscribe to my channel to help save aviation history. And also, please shop at warbirdbunker.com for cool warbird merch, model kits, stickers, shirts, and more. The link is in the description. And thank you for everyone that likes and watches my videos. I really appreciate it. Thank you. My question for today is, what is the most forgotten U.S. Air Force jet aircraft, fighter aircraft of the Cold War? Now, I got a couple aircraft on a list here of some possibilities. I personally think the Lockheed F-94 is the most forgotten U.S. Air Force jet fighter aircraft from the Cold War. A couple reasons for that. Today, there's only 14 known to exist, and that list has actually grown the last couple years. But that list has since increased since a couple airframes have popped out of the woodwork, which is good, I think. But yeah, there's only 14 known F-94s currently known to survive in the world today. That's not a lot of airplanes out there on the F-94. But also, sometimes you can judge an aircraft's popularity by seeing how many model kits are built of that aircraft out there. What model kit companies are building the aircraft. There's hardly any model kits out there for the F-94. There are currently none in production. There's only a few kits. Hobbycraft made a couple model kits, but this is over 20 years ago. I think they built 3 different kits, one for the A model, the B model, and the C model of the F-94. And really old Revell kit, which isn't really a normal size. I think it was like a 154 scale F-94 from Revell, around that scale. It wasn't your normal 148 or 172 scale. And Lindbergh also had a F-94 model kit. That one is really old. That's really about it. There's only 4 or 5 different model kits of the F-94 as far as I know. There's not that many of them. There's currently none in production. So there's that. There's not a lot of model kits on F-94. So that shows there's not that. The aircraft just doesn't have that popularity there. And also, books on the F-94, hardly any. Now recently, Ginter brought out an F-94 book. It's been pretty popular. I've had it for sale at warbirdsbunker.com, but right now it's out of stock. I hope to have some of those back in stock at warbirdsbunker.com soon, but like I said, they've been out of stock for a long time. I don't think they made a lot of those books. I don't think they printed a lot of the F-94 books because, like I said, it just stuff on the F-94 just doesn't sell because there's not a lot of people out there interested in it. So I think the F-94 is the most forgotten U.S. Air Force jet fighter interceptor aircraft of the Cold War. I think it's a toss-up between that, the F-89 Scorpion. I think they're the 2 most forgotten. But also I'm going to add 2 honorable mentions. The F-84F Thunderstreak. And I'll also include the RF-84F Thunder Flash, I'm sorry. And the P-80 F-80 Shooting Star. I think those 4 themselves are probably the most forgotten U.S. Air Force interceptor jet aircraft of the Cold War. Now I say the F-84F Thunderstreak. That's the swept wing version. The F-84 with this B, C, E, and G model of Thunder jets. Those seem to be more popular. There's more model kits of those. There's more history, more books on that type of aircraft. And of course, I saw a lot of service in the Korean War. So, and I've said this before in other videos, I think aircraft that have seen combat, a lot of combat, are always the most popular aircraft. They always have a more popular following on aircraft that see combat, rather than aircraft that didn't really, that didn't see combat. Now the F-94 did see a little service in the Korean War, but not a whole lot, a little bit. But even though it's still not a popular aircraft today, and I don't think a lot of people know about the aircraft. It's a very forgotten aircraft, and a lot of people don't know about the F-94. But yeah, there's just not a lot of model kits out there, not a lot of books, not a lot of people talking about the aircraft. And from what I've read and from pilots that flew the F-94, it was a really fun airplane to fly. It was a great airplane, an easy airplane to fly, especially the B and C models. The A models were the least liked out of the F-94 family. But I've never heard anyone say anything bad. People that have worked on it or flew them I've read and heard mostly positive things on F-94 in service. So that's good. And I've heard people say on airplane forums in the past that they think the F-94 is an ugly aircraft. To each their own, I guess. I think that, most of you guys know, I'm a big U.S. aircraft Cold War buff, and I find the F-94 pretty attractive and interesting, unique aircraft. Now, they built the A model, which was kind of underpowered. The cockpit was not roomy enough for the crew. So they built the B model and had a upgraded engine and a more roomier cockpit, a redesigned canopy, some different tip tank, wing tip tanks were kind of the Fletcher style now. The A models generally had the F-80 droop tanks on the wings on the F-80A models, and the B models, some of them had the Fletcher style tanks on the tips of the wings. And I didn't know this. I just found this out. The F-94B models sometimes had gun pods on the wings added to the B models, kind of like the C model, where the rocket pods are in a pod in the center of the wing on each wing. I had no idea the B model had gun pods also. So that's an interesting thing I just learned. Now, of course, F-94 is kind of famous for being the first all-weather interceptor jet by the U.S. Air Force during the Cold War, and it had an afterburner with its engine, increasing its thrust power. The F-94C is actually very different than the A and B model. In fact, Lockheed was originally going to designate the F-94C the F-97, but to keep within budgets and stuff, they decided to just make it a different model, F-94, rather than redesignating it F-97. The F-94C had a redesigned wing. It was thinner, and it had the tail and fuselage, rear fuselage area was redesigned. The tail planes were swept, giving a very interesting, unique look, quite different from the A and B model of the F-94s. And after the first 100 production of the F-94C, they started adding the rocket pods, and the leading edge of each wing would be a rocket pod, giving it a very unique look. And also the F-94C had replaced its guns in the nose with rocket pods itself. The nose was covered with these doors that would open up and have rockets all over the nose of the F-94C. But they caused some problems with firing the rockets from the nose, causing a lot of smoke and flash where the pilot would be blind, and also causing possible engine flame out from all that rocket exhaust getting pushed into the jet intake and flaming out the engine. That was an issue. So I guess eventually they stopped putting the rockets in the nose pods and just used the wing pods instead. But I don't know. I think the F-94 is the most forgotten aircraft. I think between that and F-90 or the F-89, I think are probably the two most forgotten active. I'm talking about like active aircraft, kind of excluding experimental aircraft because they're definitely forgotten. But I think the F-94, it's a toss-up between F-94 and F-89. I think the F-94 is the most forgotten just because there's a lack of reading material on it. There's so few surviving. There's not a lot of model kits on it. And I browse a lot of aviation forums for the last 22 years, and I hardly ever hear anyone talk about the F-94. So I think that's a real shame. Let us know what you think. Do you think the F-94 is the most forgotten U.S. Air Force jet interceptor fighter aircraft from the Cold War? Do you think it's the F-89? Maybe it's the F-84F? Maybe it's the F-80 Shooting Star? I think all four of those are very forgotten, but I don't know, I personally think the F-94 is the most forgotten. What do you guys think out there? I think the F-94, no matter what model it is, I think they're all interesting looking, unique, attractive aircraft. They all had some pretty attractive markings and paint colors on them. Obviously, the F-94s would be linked with SAGE, or Semi-Automatic Ground Environment, the U.S.'s first computerized radar system in the country. Searching for Russian bombers coming over, and they could link up with the interceptor aircraft like the F-94 to direct the F-94s and other interceptor aircraft to intercept the Russian bombers. I think it's the F-94. But let us know what you think. Do you like the F-94? I think it's a cool aircraft from a cool period in time when aviation was changing rapidly, and new cool aircraft were coming out every month. And this type of aircraft we miss seeing around. And I wish there was more than 14 surviving in the world of the F-94 today. But I'm just thankful that some more have popped out of the woodwork in the world today, lately. And there's some more surviving out there now. So anyway, just want to talk to you guys a little bit about the F-94. I think it's the most forgotten U.S. Air Force jet aircraft, fighter aircraft of the Cold War. Let us know what you think. Definitely a cool, interesting, unique aircraft. And leave a comment if you want, and we'll be seeing you. Thanks for watching my video and listening to me ramble on. And I'll see you guys later. Have a good one and take care. Keep them flying. Bye.